In my previous lesson, I gave you an epic 16th note fill that you can actually use in your everyday drumming. Now, I don't know about you, but personally I find if there's one thing that can make an epic drum fill even more epic, it's a triplet version. Now, if you agree, awesome, because today we're going to learn one of my all-time favorite triplet fills that I've ever written. And if you don't agree, then stick around because I think I can convince you otherwise. Hi guys and girls, it's Jack from Jack Pryor Drums. I hope you're doing great and that you've got your sticks ready to learn another epic fill that you can actually use in your everyday drumming. If you saw my lesson from last week, you'll have heard me mention that the fill that we learned could be transcribed into a triplet form. It's kind of Big Brother if you like, but complete with that signature kind of bounce and flair that comes with the triplet pattern. Well, that's what we're going to learn today. And if you haven't seen that previous lesson, I'll make sure it's linked in the description for you. You should definitely check it out after this video. As with the previous fill, today's pattern is really versatile and it's really going to help you build those left-handed ghost notes, which are going to be invaluable when you come to build your own great sounding fills and chops. Now, before we get started, if you do enjoy these videos and you feel like letting me know, please feel free to drop a like and also hit that subscribe button for more videos twice weekly. You can also leave me a comment in the comment section below with any feedback or queries that you have. I promise I'll answer them. Okay, so firstly, if you're unfamiliar with what a triplet is, essentially we're cramming 3 notes into the space that would normally be reserved for 2. So naturally, as a result, any 16th note triplet pattern that we play is going to have more notes than a 16th note regular pattern. And that's exactly the case with this fill. Last week's lesson required us to learn 32 notes to complete the 2-measure pattern. This week's pattern actually requires us to learn 48 notes in order to complete the 2 measures. For simplicity, I've broken this down into the individual measures so we can take it one step at a time and approach it in bite-sized chunks. So without further ado, here are the first 24 notes, and I'll make sure that the graphic is shown at the bottom of this screen so you can follow along with me. So to begin, you're going to play a right, left, left, kick, kick, right, left, kick, right, left, followed up by a kick, right, left, left, kick, right, left. Now the target speed for this fill is 110 BPM, but as with all new patterns, I really encourage you to start off slow and make sure that you have the sticking pattern really ingrained in muscle memory before trying to crank up the speed. Especially seeing as there's ghost notes involved, as sometimes those double ghost notes can end up sounding a little bit like buzz rolls without the clear sticking definition. So make sure you've nailed the ghost notes before turning up the dial. Nonetheless, let's hear what that first measure sounds like just on the snare drum on its own at 50 and 80 BPM. Nothing too unusual there, so once you have that sticking pattern down, you can start to add some orchestration. Now exactly how you choose to orchestrate this fill is totally up to you, and experimenting with the placement of individual elements can actually be the most enjoyable part of learning any new pattern. However, here's an orchestration that I've put together as an example to show you how the fill can sound when moving around the kit. Awesome, so you may have noticed that that initial measure can actually be used as an individual fill in its own right. All you'll have to do is take that final left-handed ghost note and replace it with a regular or an accented note. And I absolutely recommend that you put some practice time into that as a single measure fill. It can be really useful. But for now, let's move on to the second half. So to begin the second measure, you're actually going to repeat the first 12 notes from the first measure. So that's the right, left, left, kick, kick, right, left, kick, right, left. Nice and straightforward. So the final 12 notes of the second measure are kick, right, left, kick, right, left, kick, right, left, kick. A nice little bit of repetition there to round things off. So now let's bring the whole second measure together and hear what it sounds like on the snare only at 50 and 80 BPM. Now it's worth drawing your attention to the crescendo that sits in the latter part of that second measure, and I encourage you to have a play around with the positioning of that when it comes to orchestrating it. As with all orchestration, it's important to find out what works for you and also what works for the song that you're using this fill within. What I will say is that many of us, drummers and non-drummers alike, tend to be more familiar with patterns that run down the toms. I personally feel that it rounds things off nicely and provides a good amount of contrast with the cymbal hit that generally follows on the one. And for that reason, the orchestration that I've put together with the crescendo played on the high tom may sound more familiar to some. An interesting alternative, however, might be to actually play that crescendo on the hi-hat so that we get more impact when we come back in with the snare for the first triplet beat on the 4. I'll show you where that is down below. Now in a future lesson, I'll actually be covering some interesting ways to break the association with running down the toms and give you some practical examples as to when it might be better to do the total opposite. So make sure you're subscribed for that. In the meantime, however, here is that second measure orchestrated in a fairly familiar sounding context. Perfect, so with that under your belt, it's time to take the first measure and glue it onto the second measure to bring the full 48 note pattern together. So here's what the full pattern sounds like at a slightly higher tempo of 100 BPM. And remember, once you're familiar with the sticking pattern, I encourage you to play along with this video and fill in the gaps between the fills that I leave for you. And finally, I always like to provide some context for the lick by sitting it in a groove. It's important to understand how to get in and out of these licks to make sure that A, you're starting in the correct place, but B, that you come out ready to hit the one again. I've seen too many drummers playing insane chops only to miss the one and look around at the rest of the band expecting them to deal with the collateral. So here's a groove to demonstrate how the lick sounds when played as part of a larger piece. And that's it. Alongside last week's lesson, you now have everything you need to master a total of 4 drum fills that you can actually use in your everyday drumming. So I really hope that you found this lesson useful and that you're able to put the lick to good use in your own drumming. And if you do enjoy these videos, please remember to hit that subscribe button and drop a like to let me know. Apart from that, I'll see you on the next one.